right. Welcome to the stream. It's Sunday afternoon. I hope you're having a great day wherever you are. My name is Angela. I'm a software engineer in St. Paul, Minnesota. And on this channel, we build stuff with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And my plan for today is that we need to wrap up some details on this modal dialog window that we finished building last weekend on Saturday. And I realized after I was done last weekend on Saturday that I didn't do any QA. I didn't have a QA list, which I think that's really important anytime you're on the tail end of a project, that you're writing down a list of things that you need to double check and make sure are okay. I didn't have a QA list. We made last minute changes that were not responsive and I never even checked. We didn't check any of the accessibility. And then just by pure chance, I happened upon this YouTube channel called Coding to Go, which is a great little channel. And by little, I just mean they have quick snippets. Like that's kind of their thing, is they do things very quickly. They explain like complex things in a quick, concise, easily digestible way. It's a great channel. But I happened across, really what happened is this video popped up in my feed, HTML dialogues. And I'm not going to play the video, but here's what happened. The timing was interesting because it turns out that there is MDM dialog. There is a dialog element in the specification, and I didn't know that. I had no idea that dialog was a thing, and I didn't look. I didn't really do any research. When I decided I wanted to build a dialog, I was just purely using my own observation in the browser about what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. I didn't know this existed. So of course, when I started this, I did have a conversation with ChatGPT about how I should approach this. And this is the conversation I started. I mean, ChatGPT said things like, make sure, well, so my question originally to ChatGPT was, should this be display none if it's dismissed? Because if the user's dismissing it, it should still not be available to a screen reader. And ChatGPT confirmed that, and also said things like, make sure that the focus enters the dialog, and then when the user dismisses the dialog, the focus returns to a logical place on the page. And it said some other things, other considerations that I should think about. And I was like, great. But it didn't once mention a dialogue element. And I'm not blaming ChatGPT for that. That's something that I, in hindsight, should have done a bit more research on. So here we are. So after I watched the Coding to Go video, I was like, okay, I need to have a new conversation with ChatGPT. And also, I did not adjust anything. I did not make any adjustments to the responsiveness because we made CSS changes towards the end. There were just things that I didn't do and didn't check. And of course, I started this conversation around accessibility and then didn't do any QA with accessibility. So we are going to have to change some of the markup and styling tonight and then just do a nice thorough QA. Crossing my fingers that this will go quickly. So here is the conversation I had with ChatGPT. Should I use HTML and dialog rather than adding and removing CSS classes, which is how I did it? I said, I understand that vanilla JavaScript has, I put show dialog, I think, and hide dialog, but that's not what it is. It's show modal and close. I said, but my habit has always been to do as much functionality with CSS as possible and then use event listeners to add and remove classes and let the CSS do the work. What is the best approach? Both approaches have their merits, and the best one often depends on the project and what you're most comfortable with. Here's a breakdown of using dialog with show modal and close versus adding and removing CSS classes with JavaScript. The semantics, the dialog element is semantically designed for modals and pop-ups, providing built-in accessibility benefits like proper focus management. Native API, the native show modal and close methods are straightforward, requiring less custom code to handle modal display logic. That's good. Focus handling, the dialog automatically manages focus trapping. It keeps focus within the dialog while open, which is a common accessibility need. Closing mechanism, which I never thought of. The dialog also allows the use of the escape key or clicking outside the modal to close it with minimal effort required on your part. And of course, I wrote JavaScript to handle that. So we wouldn't need JavaScript for that anymore. So here's a basic example of opening and closing a modal, which obviously this is so simple. Okay, so here are the cons. Browser support. Older browsers don't support the dialog element natively, though polyfills can be used. I'm not worried about that. Less control over styling. Since the dialog element has some built-in behavior, you may have slightly less flexibility compared to managing everything with CSS. Using CSS with class toggles. So this is obviously the approach I used. When to use dialog. If you need a simple, accessible modal solution that works out of the box with minimal JavaScript, if browser compatibility isn't a major concern, or you're okay with using polyfills, when native modal behavior like clicking outside to close or using the escape key is needed without custom code. When to use CSS and class toggles. You're comfortable with this approach and prefer fine-tuned control over animations and styles. That's a yes. If you want complete flexibility and aren't concerned about the need for extra JavaScript or accessibility, no, I need those things. When you're working in projects where cross-browser compatibility is critical and you want maximum control, I think this is an interesting point because this is the first time ChatGPT has said anything about cross-browser compatibility other than IE11, which I don't consider. I mean, technically that's cross-browser compatibility, but I think of it as just supporting like a legacy browser. It's not like saying you support Firefox, Safari, Chrome, and Opera or whatever. Okay, well, moving on. It says, my recommendation, if you're working on a modern browser-compatible project and accessibility is concerned, using Dialog might be worth exploring. It saves time by handling accessibility features out of the box. However, if you're already in the habit of using CSS classes, adding, removing them, and handling accessibility yourself, there's nothing wrong with continuing to do so, especially if you prefer the flexibility. So in short, both approaches are valid, and the best approach is the one that meets your project's needs and your workflow style. So I was feeling very hopeful at this point that I would not have to change too much. But wait, there's more. So I asked, I said, because this was like a day later, I think I came back to this. I said, do you remember the HTML and CSS at the beginning of this chat? I can add I can add an ARIA attribute, but how do I add an escape key, an escape, or handle the focus states with my markup? So it basically took my markup and it was going to help me add the ARIA attributes and help me with the escape stuff. So here's the JavaScript for the escape key and focus trapping. Yeah, it's a lot. This is a lot. As soon as I saw this, I was like, I just felt like this was too, so this does include all of the JavaScript, including the classes, adding and removing the classes. This just feels very messy to me. It feels like so much extra code for something that could be done natively. So I did feel like I had to redo this with Dialog. It doesn't feel right to me to continue. I'm set in my ways. Here's the thing about being a developer that is many years into her career. I like how I do things. It is not that I am purposely resistant to doing new things. Sometimes I just don't know that a new thing even exists. And it's really easy to be like, well, I know how to do all of this with classes and adding and removing classes and using CSS transitions, and but then I see this JavaScript and I'm like, yeah, we need to redo this. So so I basically looked at this and I was like, okay, thanks. Seeing the amount of code needed for the escape and focus makes me think I should use Dialog, not CSS, but you indicated that I won't be able to control how it displays with an animation. Is that correct? That was the other thing, because we did put an animation on our window. So if we, go away, Doc, I'm not dealing with you today. See that nice little animation? And it was like, yeah, you're actually not going to have a ton of control over that. So, yes, you're correct that using the native dialog element provides built-in functionality for accessibility, including handling the escape key and focus trapping. However, the dialog element has limited support for custom animations when compared to using CSS and JavaScript to toggle classes, but it gave us a workaround. The dialog element doesn't natively support the same flexibility for animations like fade-ins or slide-ins that you can easily achieve with CSS classes. However, you can still add animations using CSS, but requires a bit of extra handling because of how the dialog behaves when opening and closing. Here are the key points. CSS animations, you can still apply CSS transitions and animations to a dialog, but you'll need to use JavaScript to manually manage when the animations start and stop. No problem. I can handle that. Opening and closing. These show modal and close methods on the dialog element instantly display or hide the modal, which can bypass smooth animations unless controlled carefully. I'm here for it. I'm up to the challenge. You can simulate the same kind of animations you'd use with CSS class toggling by manually controlling the visibility and animations using show modal and close in combination with CSS animations. Example. So it's basically, and so we're using CSS animations already, right? And we saw that CSS animations last week used keyframes and then had these transitions and transforms. So we are already prepared for that. We're already ready to do this. That's why I'm down for this. So we're going to implement some of this and see how it goes, see if we like it. And then it has, so this, look how much simpler this JavaScript is if we're willing to make a change. And if we're willing to make a change and try something different and redo some of our work. To open the modal, it's dialog show modal, and then dialog class list add open. Add the open class to trigger the animation. So it looks like we're putting open right on the dialog, which is interesting. Function to close the dialog with animation. Dialog class list remove open. Start the fade out animation. Delay closing the dialog to allow the animation to finish. Beautiful. So let's go ahead and change some of our markup, and we're probably going to lose some of our styling. We'll have to redo some of our styling, but I want to get the functionality in place first, and then we can go ahead and style when we're done, because styling's the easy part. JavaScript, for me at least, is not the easy part. I feel like I could write CSS in my sleep, for the most part. JavaScript, as much as I love it, as much as I tend to think the universe runs on JavaScript, it just doesn't flow as naturally from me as CSS does. So let's see here. So I think they're saying that we have to have the dialog as the container, and then we need to have the modal window container. So here's our modal window container. So I think we can just, I wonder, I'm just gonna change the dialog and let's just see what happens. So if I just change this to dialog, I'm going to change that to dialog. I think we should close this. So see, we also have our cookie in here too. So we don't want to lose our cookie. We really just want to I think we're going to have to just set our cookie aside for a minute and come back to it. So we're just going to set that aside for a minute. So here's our open, here's our close. Here is add a click event listener to the modal button. Add a click event listener to the modal window for outside clicks. So we're not going to need this. Add a listener to all dismiss buttons to close the modal. I don't think we're going to need that either, because this has the dismiss to close. This is our button that lives down in the corner. So we might need the for each to, or maybe we don't. Maybe it's function to close the dialog with animation. Close button, dialog, query selector, close. I think we're going to have to do a query selector all because we're going to have more than one. Am I missing? Where's the close? So here's, oh, right down here. Got it. So I think we do still need to have a for each for the dismiss button. And then, so this can stay. But does the dismiss button need to be inside? I don't think so, because this is outside, so it doesn't have to be. Oh, does the dismiss button have to be inside the dialog? Well, it would be anyways, because here's the first close button and here's the second close button. Okay, so we're good there. And then here's our set timeout to set timeout dialog close. So delay closing the dialog to allow the animation to finish. I think we're going to want both. I think we're going to need an open and a close because I want to animate both. I don't think this is accounting for both. So there's open and close. And mine is a lot longer. Mine is 2,000, but they have... This is 500. Okay, we'll change it to 500 because the transition's probably going to be... What's the transition? A half a second. Okay. But I still want the open to be... Okay, we're just going to play with it. Don't worry about it, Angela. Okay. So here's our open. Okay, let's get this in here. And here's our open. And I have a question. Hi, can you suggest how to start JS for beginners? Yeah, actually, I can. I would suggest learn this. Learn JavaScript online. I'll stick this in the chat. My other suggestion is practice. You must practice. You have to have ideas and you have to practice. If you see something that you think looks cool or you want to learn how to build it, you got to get started and you got to just practice doing it. Tutorials are amazing. You could also check out... I would highly recommend Traversy Media. I mean, there is no better place. There is no better place than YouTube to get really high quality tutorials on how to build stuff and do stuff and work on projects. So I would do Learn JavaScript, or I would do anything that Brad Traversy has. Yeah, JavaScript Crash Course Absolute Beginners. Modern JavaScript from the beginning, the first 12 hours. I mean, he has a ton of great stuff. So, you're on YouTube. You have no better place to learn and learn how to do stuff than YouTube. So you're in the right place. But do exactly like what I'm doing now, which is building stuff, practicing, having an idea, and seeing if you can build it. That's the key. That's the real way that you learn, is by actually doing it. So, okay, back to it. So, here's what we need to do for the open modal, and I think I need to... Here we go. Okay. Okay, so I've got Dialog, I've got the Modal button, which they have open button, close button. Document get element by ID. That's not what I have. Mine is query selector, modal window. So it's really this. Modal button, which is basically the close button. And then the open button is that what it is? No, it's not. This is basically the open button. So I'm going to say modal open button. Modal open button. Oh, no wonder I can't find it. Okay. We're going to rename this too. Stop. Okay. So we've got our dialog, we have our dialog, our open, our close. And I don't think we need this because I think that is what we're going to animate with our CSS. And then we still want to make our body active or not active. So we don't need this. Okay, so let's just focus on open. I'll take that out. And it looks like we don't need classes on the buttons. We just need to show the modal. And then here's close. And our set timeout is actually example automatically open the modal after. Okay, I think this is going to be separate. We'll worry about that later. That has to do with our cookie. So to close, this to be active, not open. Okay, there's a lot happening here. I need to remove some stuff. I don't think we need this. Okay, so this is already what this is. So I don't need this. I'm going to put this. Oh, yeah, that's already what that is. Got it. So here's our open and close. Well, here goes nothing. Let's see here. I'm sure I'm going to have to change some CSS. Here we go. Yes, because we're display none. Because this is actually my window right here. Ugh, we have to change a lot of CSS. So probably this should be the dialog. Ugh. Yeah, we have to change a lot of stuff. This is making me think that I should just stick with what I have and add the JavaScript to handle the accessibility. Because we did so much work last weekend to handle all of these transitions and all of these buttons. Yeah. See how easy it is to change your mind when you are faced with the amount of work that you have to redo? I thought it was going to be a lot easier to just swap out. I thought it would be a lot easier to just swap out the markup and handle the animation with a different transition. But maybe it's okay to just stick with what I have. So what would I add? What would I have to do different? I think all I have to add is so we would add variables for the focusable elements inside the modal. And then we would add set focus to the first focusable element. Add the key down event listener for escape and focus trapping. Function to close the modal. We would remove the key down event listener when the modal is closed. Return focus to the button that opened the modal. And then handle key events, escape key, and focus trapping. It's a lot. And then we resume back to what we already had to handle our cookie and our dismiss. So I can either add all of this extra JavaScript to make what I did last weekend work, or I can redo all of my CSS and markup for simpler JavaScript. I mean, they're both so amazing. I love both. I mean, and by saying they're both so amazing, I don't want to do either. But it's not responsive and it's not accessible, so I have to pick one. Okay, well, I guess we're going to redo the CSS. But this is not going to work the way I have it because it won't show up. Okay, let's see if we can. Let's take this out. It's not showing up because we haven't clicked on the button. Where's our button? That's the dismiss button. There's our form. There's our description. It doesn't have its display on because it doesn't have the active class. Okay. Ugh, what a mess. Oh, wait a second. What's happening here? Oh my gosh. Angela, you're not compiling. Ugh, how many times? Story of my life. No wonder nothing's working. There we go. I still don't see anything. Why can't I see you? Where are you? I mean, is it just because? Let's take. Modal. Oh, I didn't. Okay, I didn't change any of my CSS. Wow, we're off to a banging start today, aren't we? Modal open button. There we are. Okay. So it doesn't have an active class. We did all of this based on whether or not it had an active class. So I'm thinking I just have to move these up here. We don't want, see, I'm easily confusing myself right now because I think so much in terms of using these classes to change states, and the JavaScript is doing it natively. So I'm like, wait a second, you mean I don't have to add active or not, or remove active to get my button to do something? Wow. Holy cow, that works. Sort of. Sort of. We all saw that, right? I was not expecting that. So here's our dialogue. Okay. Oh my gosh. So here we can dismiss. So we might want to put like a little animation or something to dismiss it. Although I don't think we did that before. Let's look at our Heroku, because that is untouched. See, now I feel bad for whining. Okay, so that doesn't have an animation to dismiss it. And let's see here. So the dialogue will get the focus, and then it will go to the button. Here's a button. Here's the form, the image. Then here's the form, the description, the form, and then it goes to the button. All right, let's, okay. So we do need this to, load though on page load. So we need this to be, here's what we need. We don't need this. It was just to get it to open. And I think we do still want this to be 2000. Okay, let's delete some of the stuff we know we don't need. Wow. I'll leave some of these comments in. I'm happy, and I feel a little bad for how whiny I was. Okay, let's turn our cookie back on, because we definitely need that. And this goes back. Where does this go? This goes back down. I think this goes here, right? Wait, is that where that goes? Where are you? I don't see you. It goes in close. Function to close. Yes, so when you close it, you create the cookie to remember. Got it. So we would put that here. All right, let's see what happens. Nope, this is Heroku. Okay, we have to get back to our, get back here. Am I the only one who saw that? Okay. I'm happy. We're doing good. Ooh, focus. It's got to focus. The focus state is on the button. Thank you. Thank you. This is working. I'm so happy. Okay. So this means that on page load, we have a focus state on our close button, which is inside the dialog. It's this right here. So let's just, on page load, let's just use our tab key to focus through and see where, make sure everything goes in the right order, and then we'll make sure that we can either hit return on the close button or no thanks, and then we have to test the escape key, and then we need to be able to click outside. Oh, you have to click outside the modal. Okay, that's okay, because right now, so that means you can only click outside of this container, which I changed this container. Yeah, okay. So we're going to have to add another wrapper because we animated this. Got it. So we're going to add another wrapper around the dialog, and then we have to scooch this in because we have to be able to click outside, which we can't right now. Got it. Okay, well, let's at least test this. All right, we have focus. Wow. Yes. Okay. So I don't know if it's going to come up again without clearing. No. Okay, so let's turn off our cookie. I need it to pop up. So I'm going to turn this off for now. And we'll clear our cookie again. Yes. And I just want to make sure that we can tab through and do all the things that we're supposed to be able to do. Nice. We could animate the close also. Yeah, well, we have code to animate to do a transition on the close. So we'll do that too. And then we need to make sure that if the modal is showing, then we don't have a button, but if we have a button, that means the modal is closed. Okay, so we just have some extra logic here to figure out. I love it. Okay, so the focus is inside the dialog and it goes straight to the button. So I'm going to close it. And then if I continue to tab, I want to see where my focus is. It's on the second button. That's why we need to, which would make sense because that's the button that comes immediately after. So you could open it again. So I'm going to close it, and then the focus goes to the button because it comes immediately, it's right here, it comes immediately after. But if you read this and it says save 10% today and you're like, no, I just dismissed that, then you can continue to, got it. And then it goes straight into the header in the navigation. I'm glad I put that in there. Oh, over here. Nice. Okay. I am happy with that. In fact, yeah, I'm happy with that. I think I might have my friend who is an accessibility specialist look at this week and show it to her and see if she has any suggestions. But this makes sense to me because the focus enters the dialog on page load. You can tab through the close button, the form, and the no thank you. And then if you close the dialog, the focus goes to this button because it comes immediately after the dialog. And then if you're like, no, save 10% today, like, no, I just that's the thing I just said no to, you can just continue to tab and it goes right up to it just continues right into the header and the main part of the body. So that makes sense to me. That is the functionality I would expect to see. Okay, so let's work on some CSS, because the thing that we need to do now, well, let's see if that even works. Okay, so if I hit the escape key, what happens? Nothing. Nothing happens. Okay, so the escape key doesn't work, and I can't click outside. But I also think that I have to change some of the styles. But why doesn't the escape key work? Modal window active. Oh, I bet it's because I need the, yeah, I think I have to take this out. Modal window active. There might be some other things here that we have to undo in our CSS. Modal window active. See, I don't need display block anymore. Modal window container. And this gets the animation, but it's not conditioned on the active. Yeah, it's not conditioned on the active. Modal window open. Modal window container. Animate into view. I have a feeling my CSS is, maybe this does need to be conditioned on the active. So this is just the button. We'll get back to that. We're gonna like deal with the button last. I don't care about the button right now. So I'm not worried about this. I'm not worried about this. And I don't think I need this. But I think this. And then this is just the positioning for the close and the no thanks. This is our SVG. This is the form. So we just need to sort out this logic. Because you shouldn't have to do display none and display block, because the dialog open and close should be handling all that. I save? Yes. Okay, and there was a little flash there we're going to have to deal with. That's fine, I can deal with that. So this is supposed to still be adding that class though. Close, dialog, no, it doesn't, it removes it. Hang on, it removes it. Got it? Okay, did I not notice? There it is, okay. So our body has active. Our dialog has active, and then this is triggered because the modal window active. Got it? And then when we close, there's a set timeout. I don't think I'm gonna, I mean, we just have to put a transition on the close, but I think I'm right though. Let's just see how it looks without it. We didn't have a transition on it to begin with. So I guess I'm open to not having one now. Okay, so here's the real test. Escape. Yes, that worked. Okay, that's all we had to do is adjust some CSS. Escape. Nice. Oh, but it didn't remove the active class. Okay. So for escaping, it should be removing the active class from the body. It should be removing the active class from the body and the dialog. It didn't do that. Oh, and it's also putting an open attribute on the dialog. So when I escape, it takes out the attribute. Did I miss that in the JavaScript? I think the class was... Yeah, so we need to make sure that we're also why isn't the escape key closes it, removes the open attribute, but it doesn't remove the class. So let's see here if there's something I missed. Yes, you're correct that using the native It says, yes, you're correct that using the native dialog element provides built-in functionality for accessibility, including handling the escape key and focus trapping. However, the dialog element has limited support for custom animations when compared to using CSS and JavaScript to toggle classes. The dialog element doesn't natively support the same flexibility for animations. Okay, we got all that. We handled all that. Opening and closing. The show modal and close methods on the dialog element instantly display or hide the modal, which can bypass smooth animations unless controlled carefully. You can simulate the same kind of animations, okay. Body classless remove modal. Do I have to put this like first? I think that there has to, yeah. So the clicking or giving the button photo, like focus state, the entire function has to be triggered, not just the dialog close. Yeah. Because what's the, oh, that's just the open button. But we're also doing open modal on page load. So what I need is I need the dialog close to also do these two things. So I have to tell, okay, so when I click the escape key and dialog close is triggered, the close modal function is not being triggered and the classes are not being removed. So we do still need a function to trigger the entire, we need a handle key down yeah, yeah, there's still other stuff we have to do here. So, ChatGPT doesn't always give us all the information we need in the very beginning. And, you know, this is why if you're a developer who is worried that AI is going to take over your job or take over, you know, coding, I don't see that happening anytime soon. As smart as it is, it can only give you correct information if it's been trained on correct information. So it's a great start. It's a great tool. It obviously helps in a pinch with so many things. It helps with planning, strategy, not just in a pinch. It helps every step of the way, but this is just such a good example of it giving us information, and then you start implementing things and you're like, but wait a second, it didn't do this, this, and this. And you have to go back and like ask it to continue like giving you a complete picture of how to handle things. So, okay, so we need this, and then we need the event listener for the key down. I think these are the only two things we need. I'm going to put this. Does it matter? Put it right here. And we only need this because we're doing these animations and we're adding these classes. If you weren't doing any of that, you wouldn't need to do this. Okay, so now if we hit escape, there, nice. I'm glad we don't have to change our animation. Okay, so we do need to put a container around this dialog now and change some of our styles. So we're gonna do a div. Where is this div coming from? Wait a second, what's happening here? Did I put this dialog in the wrong spot? We don't need that. So I feel like this would be the same. Top left. Would it? We would just take out the background color and we don't have it filling the window, but it would still be fixed. It's a little bit backwards. Like if I was building this from scratch with the information that I have, I don't know if I would really do it this way. Let's see what happens. All right, that's not too bad. Maybe we don't have to do any of this. Okay. I'm trying to think. Because we have to be able to click outside the dialog, and I can't have it fixed and stretched across the width and the height. I can do that with another container outside, but you can't really animate a dialog. You have to animate what's inside of it. Maybe we don't want to do the big fade up in. Maybe we just want to fade in. And then I don't have to worry about a transition coming in. Yeah, that works. So can I just do position relative? I just do position. Do I have to do anything on this? I mean, I don't think I have to do anything on this. And then I can just do the fixed stuff on the modal dialog wrapper. Yeah. Make some adjustments. Okay, so the dialog does still need some stuff. Okay. So So we do still need some stuff here. Okay. So let's get rid of the padding and the margin. Stop. And I can't it just be like, can't you just exist? No, I guess you can't, because your child is position absolute, which means you just collapse under the pressure. So it's probably better to make the active window position absolute and then make the modal container just, oh, but then I have to hold you open. What's the best way to deal with you? So the wrapper is fixed because I need you to take up the entire screen. The dialog, can't you just exist without being position absolute? And still have, yeah, like maybe we could just do flexbox instead, because you can be position fixed and still be display flex, especially if you're already being held open and covering the entire screen. I wouldn't need you to be position absolute as a child element. I could just flexbox you into the center of the page, right? And then you wouldn't collapse from absolute positioning, and then everything inside you could just exist naturally. Let's try that. So yeah, let's try that. Display flex. And then we could do, I don't think this really matters, but, and then I could do, so that should get us in the center on the X and Y axis. Ooh, we're close. Oh, it's position. Well, that shouldn't matter. What about when? Okay, that works at least, right? So that's awesome. It's probably because this is position fixed that it's doing that. So if this is open, I'm supposed to be able to click outside of the dialog and it would close. Okay, so when I click outside the dialog, should it automatically close? Okay, wait a second. You said that it did. Okay, let's go back here. Closing mechanism. The dialog also allows the use of the escape key or clicking outside the modal to close it with minimal effort required on your part. I read that differently. The native show modal and close methods are straightforward, requiring less custom code to handle modal display logic. The dialog also allows the use of the escape key or clicking outside the modal to close it with minimal effort required on your part. I interpreted this as it happened automatically, but I guess I was wrong. So let's ask it. This wouldn't be the first time I had contradictory information. When native modal behavior like clicking outside to close or using the escape key is needed without custom code. It's going to keep a little list of things that I'm going to ask it about. Okay, so we need to ask it about this. Okay, default behavior of dialog. Escape key. The dialog element natively supports closing with the escape key when opened using show modal. This means that when the user presses the escape key, the dialog will close without requiring any extra JavaScript from your side. Clicking outside. The behavior for clicking outside the modal, however, depends on how the dialog is opened. Interesting. If you use dialog show modal, the dialog becomes a modal dialog, and by default, clicking outside the dialog does not close it. If you use dialog show non-modal dialog, you can interact with the content behind the dialog, but it still won't automatically close when clicking outside. Why the misunderstanding happened? The dialog element natively handles the escape key but does not automatically close on outside clicks. For this behavior, you need to add your own JavaScript as I described in my previous message. Escape key, handled natively by dialog. Click outside to close, not handled by a dialog natively, but you can easily implement it with JavaScript by listening for outside clicks. Okay, it's me. The behavior for clicking outside depends on how the dialog is opened. If you use dialog show modal, the dialog becomes a modal dialog, and by default, clicking outside does not close it. If you use dialog show, you can interact with the content behind the dialog, but it still won't automatically close when clicking outside. Well, then why does it depend on which method you use? And it says here, closing mechanism, the dialog also allows, okay, I'm willing to say that this is my misinterpretation because it does say with minimal effort required on your part. But it does say here when to use dialog. When native modal behavior, like clicking outside to close or using the escape key, is needed without custom code. Okay, I mean, yeah, so again, this is, I mean, I'm not mad at ChatGPT. I'm just pointing out the fact that it can only give you correct information when it is being trained with correct information. So if you're a new developer and you're using ChatGPT, it's an awesome tool. It's a great tool. But, well, even if you're not a new developer and you're just using it for the first time or getting used to using it, whatever, just make sure that you're really reading through the explanations that it gives you and you're asking it to clarify things that you don't understand. Even if the information isn't contradictory and it's just something that doesn't make sense, make it explain it to you. But if it does contradict itself, which I find it does all the time, make it clarify itself. I will say this is the first time that I don't feel like I'm getting a clear answer. Well, the first time that I'm really like pushing it to give me the correct answer or just a clear clarification. Not even a correct answer, just a clarification on the contradictions, and it's not doing that in my opinion. So, all right, well, we're just going to close the dialog when clicking outside of the modal content. So dialog, add event listener, click. If the modal window container, which is the thing immediately inside, if the modal window container contains the event target, meaning the click, then close it. Pretty sure I already have. No, I do not. Okay, so I know I don't need this. I do need this. And I'll just move you down. So we've got our body, our dialog, our inner container, and our open button and our close buttons, plural. And then we just need this. I'll put you right here. Yeah, so far this is not looking simpler to me. probably we could have just kept it exactly the way it was. I do feel like we did the right thing, though, to actually implement the dialogue element and not swap those classes in and out. So even though you will not convince me that this is less code, we do have a cookie here. We are still swapping some classes to handle the animations. Yeah. You know, it's a learning process. We're learning. Unbelievable. Okay. Okay, good. It works. Wonderful. Okay, fine. Now I just need to get you positioned. And I think, I mean, why does it matter if that is probably because the width and the height. I think I'm still going to have to do absolute positioning. So that's fine. What was it? Hang on, I've got it from last week. Oh, stop. This. Oh, here it was. We didn't have to do that. All right. So here's our wrapper, which is like our outer container. Here's the modal window when it's actually active. Why does that matter? See, our active class doesn't really control anything. No, it does. Yeah, that looks nice. I like that. Now we can click outside. And it doesn't remove anything. Okay. We can add that too. So here is, we need to just do close modal, not just dialog close. I mean, so ChatGPT gives me this as a function, and then this is just the whole event listener. Okay, we'll ask it to do some refactoring once we're all done here. Okay, so here's our active class on the body. active class on the dialog plus the open attribute on the dialog. We click outside. Good. That works. Let's make sure. So we our close button automatically has focus. Good. So let's make sure we can enter to close. Okay, and it removes our classes. Okay, that also works. Let's make sure now that we can escape. Oh, escape. There we go. Okay, and then if we tab, we go right back down to the button. So you could open it again. And then the focus goes right to that close button. So that's the real benefit of using the dialog, is that it handles the focus states as well as it does. Not because you're going to need less code to do these open or closes. And you can animate, because we're really animating this, not this. Dialog, and so it has this pseudo backdrop class. So could I style this instead? Position fixed. Yeah, do I need this? If I take that out, what happens? I don't think I need that. All right. Let's take this out. Whoop, hang on. That's nice. So it automatically puts this backdrop pseudo class on. So now we can click, yeah, that works. Okay, my mood is improving. Nice. And I think we can use this, let's get this to show up again. And we can use this backdrop pseudo class to put a background. Nice. So, okay, let me do everything here is inside this active. Do we need the active? Am I confusing myself? No, we don't even need the active because the animation is already here with our animate stuff. So I don't even need the active. I didn't think so. I want to put the active on the body still. So that's the only reason I need to do that. And I'm not animating the fade out. I'm only animating the fade in. So the open modal puts the active on the body and does the dialog show modal. Close modal, dialog close, remove the active from the body. We also, this is also where we're creating our cookie. This is our function for the escape key, the event listener for the key down to look for the escape key. Here is our event listener checking for a click event outside of the modal container. Okay, that makes sense. Here's the button to open the modal. Here are two close buttons to close the modal. And then here is a check to look for the cookie that we set. If there's no cookie, then go ahead and open the modal after 2 seconds. Otherwise, make the button. So if there's no cookie, open the modal or activate the button. Yeah, I actually understand everything that's happening here. So, okay, so now let's sort out our timing with we need to make sure that this button is showing when it should. So I would say we could use whatever's happening on the body, right? So if the body is active, we're controlling this overflow so you can't scroll, but we could also have this button show or not show based on whether or not there's an active class on the body. So modal open button, I think I'm right. So by default, this is display none. And then down here at the very bottom, I'm going to say body active display block. So we'll say only show the button when the body has the active class. No, do not. Let me see here. No, that's wrong. Display. The button by default is display none. Hang on. The button by default is display block. When the body is active, then it's display none. So hide the button when the body has an active class and the modal dialog is open. There we go. Yeah, we don't need all those extra classes. We just need the active class on the body. And having the active class up so that high in the DOM actually gives us a lot of control, a lot of power to have the active class that far up. We have far less things that we have to add and remove active to. Yeah. So let's just do our testing now. So I'm going to hit escape. That works. I'm going to hit, well, we'll just click outside. That works. I'm going to open it, and then I'm just going to tab. See, now when I open it, the tab is not on our button. Oh, and also, did you see that? It's showing until it's not. So, because the active class isn't getting, the body isn't getting the active class for 2 seconds because of the set timeout. So do we want the body to have the active class by default? Will that work? Because let's try it. See, it doesn't, the focus does not return to that button. So on page load, this close button is getting the focus. If I click it, what's the next thing that gets focus? That, okay. If I hit return, this gets focus. If I click outside, now I'm going to tab again. That gets focus. I hit return, okay. So I'm going to click outside. Now I'm just going to click. And what's the first thing that gets focus? Not the close button. I mean, should it? So why? Okay, so if I'm, what's the difference between hitting enter and clicking that button? They're both doing the same thing. They're both doing open Modal. I don't know if that matters. Close the modal when clicking outside the container. Probably because, no, I don't know, clicking outside the container, and then if I hit tab again, the button gets the focus. If I hit enter, the first button gets the focus. I'm going to click outside the container, and then I'm going to click the button. Okay. So when I click this button, this input is getting focus. This button is not. So if I hit enter and then I tab, hit enter. Yeah, that's, I don't know if that's okay. I mean, so maybe that button needs to be inside the form element. Yeah, does the button need to be inside the form element with like an ARIA label that says what it's for? Well, I mean, we could work on this again next weekend. Let's get our cookie working and let's get our backdrop. So let's refresh. Let's get our backdrop in here first. Nothing is simple, is it? Okay, so backdrop pseudo element on internal dialog in top layer backdrop. So if I just do dialog with a pseudo class of backdrop, will that let me style it? Let's find out. Just want to do this. This is what we had last week. That worked. Thank goodness for small favors. There we go. Okay. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, we need to make sure this is positioned correctly on mobile. Yeah, so. So this calculation needs to be different because on desktop, this is 780 by 500, and I used this 50% minus half of its height and half of its width to get it centered on the XY axis. And I'm taking out on mobile this. And it's new, let's see here. So its new height and width are actually, where is it? 90%. So we just need some media queries to handle that. So you could see here as it gets smaller, oh, okay, come on. As it gets smaller, that calculation is off. So if we did so now this corner is in the center. The max width is 90%. So I think for this we could use a transition though, right? Because this has the transition for the animation, but not this. So if we do yeah, so I think we can actually go back to just doing this without the calculation since we removed it. Okay, well that's good. That's wrong. And then I think we just need to, it looks like our form. There we go. Okay, good. Let's tighten up some of this. This is a lot of line height. primary header. I'll just say line height. What's the browser default's like 1.2. I'm just gonna say 1. Oof, that's a little tight. Do 1.25. Okay, that works. And then we got a lot going on here. Okay. So let's take the margin off the bottom of the primary header. Yeah, I mean, this dialog does have it has semantic value. It adds this backdrop pseudo class, which is great. It adds attributes. So we did need additional JavaScript to handle the escape key and clicking outside the dialog, but semantically it has more value. It has this pseudo class. It has the open attribute. We can still animate everything inside the dialog, and we don't need a wrapper around the dialog to handle this other functionality. So it's easy to go ahead and position this on the page. I can still put my transform on the position, so I don't have to do any calculations for centering it, whether it's on desktop or mobile, so that's really good. So it wasn't less JavaScript, that's for sure, but we are adding and removing fewer classes. That's good. We're only adding one class to the body, and it's so high up in the DOM that we can look at that class, we can look at the body to see if there's a class and control everything else based on whether or not the body has a class. So that's a very clean solution to me. I like that we can do that. And we do have the active class on the body in the markup by default, because without it, we see the button for 2 seconds before the modal loads and would officially put the active class on the body. So I'm fine with that. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And then let's make sure that our cookie's working. This is the last thing we need to do. So let's make sure that all of our cookies, the only thing that I'm not sure about is, let's make sure our cookie's working first. Okay, so this would imply that there's no cookie. Let's look. Let's make sure. Look at our network tab, and it should be in the request header. No, I don't see any cookies. Okay, so now I'm going to dismiss this and reload the page. Oh, Yep, that won't work. It won't work to have the active class on by default, will it? Because it won't show the button. All right, that's why we test. Let's see here. Let's at least make sure we have our cookie. Okay, so I knew that was too good to be true. Okay. I mean, I don't know, maybe it doesn't matter. So let's reload again. Okay, so let's clear our cookie. Reload. So we see our button for 2 seconds until the modal loads because we have a set timeout. We have a set timeout of 2 seconds before open modal. So maybe we need to do, maybe we just need to go ahead and do, I mean, we're going to have to keep it there, but we're going to have to put it in both places. Does that matter? Does it matter if you have it in there twice? I don't know. Let's try it. Reload. Let's look. I just want to see what happens. I just want to see it with my own eyeballs. Okay, so refresh. Okay. I'm gonna keep it on there. So that's our solution right there, because we need to, let's look in the network. I'm gonna do it one more time. So here's the request header. We don't have any cookies. So now if I dismiss this, here's our button. And here's our cookie. Okay, so the only thing that I'm not sure about is the behavior. Oh, Doc, you're killing me. Okay, so when I click this button is not the first thing to get focus. This makes me think that button needs to be inside the form element. I don't know why though. I don't know why. I will say this, the dialog is the only thing that gets focus. So I guess I'm okay with this because we have a close at the top and the bottom, and when you tab through, the dialog, as long as it's open, is the only thing other than the address bar that gets focus. So I guess I'm going to make an executive decision that this is okay. And then if we tab again, the button gets focused because it comes next after the dialog and the DOM. So if I hit enter, then the first button gets focus, but it still has the same behavior here. So yeah, I'm going to say that this is okay. And then if I tab past, then it traverses down the DOM like normal. Okay. I'm going to take the win. I'm going to take the W. And I'm going to call this done. I'm going to call this done. So let's commit this and get this deployed up to Heroku. 1 second here. What a ride. Okay. So what did we do? We changed markup to support dialog element. And git push origin main. And we'll go to deploy. Deploy the main branch. Okay, so I'm going to, let's refresh and make sure that everything's being handled the way we want it to. So body's getting active immediately. Here's our dialog, here's our open attribute. Let's look at the network tab. And we don't have any cookies in the request header, so I'll go ahead and close it. Here's our button. We'll refresh again. Check the request header. There's our cookie. So now let's go ahead and clear our cookie. And yes, we were able to clear it. Good. Okay, so now I'm just tabbing through and we can see here that the focus state remains inside the dialog as long as it's open. So I'm going to hit enter to close, tab again, enter to open, and we stay inside. So now I'm going to click outside. Yeah, this works. Nice. We did it. We did it. Well, here we are. We did it. Once again, I did not, just like the masonry layout that I did yesterday, you know, I just decide to build things that I notice that I think look cool, that I think I would like to build. I obviously never dream that they're going to be as hard as they are or as complex. But I'm glad that we did it the right way. I'm glad that it's accessible. I'm glad that it is mobile, responsive. That's not what I wanted. Oh, let me get back to the desktop. I'm glad that it does all the things that it's supposed to do. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Um, it's so I even though I it makes me a little cranky sometimes to have to go back and redo stuff. I know it's the right thing to do. And I learned so much doing these things. And if anybody else can tune in and watch and hang out and learn things, I guess the more the merrier. So have a great day wherever you are. I have not decided what I'm doing yet next weekend. I'm probably going to go grab another Photoshop mock-up and we'll get back to just building a nice layout. And yeah, I'll see you next weekend. Have a great week and thanks for joining me. And yeah, okay, bye.